Hello everyone and welcome to the Raw review here on Wrestling with Regret. It's a brave new world in WWE right now, and this week's Raw opens up with a special edition of Miz TV. The new WWE Champion, The Miz, he finally gets his pyro, everyone. He was denied that on Sunday, but he gets it Monday night, celebrating with a new championship win. He puts over his 16-year journey in WWE and how everyone thought he was going to be fired in 3 months, but he's outlasted all these other titans in the industry who've all come and gone. The Miz calls himself the only two-time Grand Slam winner, and I'm like, can you do that? Is that a thing where you can just multiply the number of Grand Slams you have by the number of world titles you also have? Anyway, before we think too much about that, Bobby Lashley and MVP show up, and MVP reminds The Miz of the deal that they made the previous night at Elimination Chamber and how Lashley helped take care of Drew McIntyre so Miz could win the title in the first place. So now the agreement is that Bobby Lashley gets the first title shot, and Miz, being the chicken shit heel he is, tries to balk and say, we need to wait until the proper time to have this matchup here. And so finally, Bobby Lashley's had enough. He grabs Miz and he gives him 1 hour to make up his mind about the match. And if he doesn't give him the match, he says that you'll be a star of the new reality show, How Bobby Lashley Put Me in the Emergency Room. We need to workshop on that title a bit. It's a bit clunky for a TV show title. So anyway, will Miz give Lashley his title shot? We'll find out in 60 minutes. We see Riddle, the new U.S. champion, chatting it up with Lucha House Party and naming the eagle on his belt Travis. And then we see Riddle presumably defend his title against John Morrison. The announcers cannot keep it straight whether or not this is a championship match, but I'm going to assume that it is Riddle versus John Morrison. So 2 of the members of the triple threat match from Sunday. And this is probably the best match of the night. It's certainly the most different feeling out of all the matches we see this evening. These two really go at it. Lots of kicks, lots of counters, good athleticism here. In the end, Riddle catches Morrison in mid-Starship Pain and hits the Bro Derek to win the match. So yeah, good stuff for Riddle. We get an announcement that Rhea Ripley's coming to Raw, and all I can think is good for her. I feel she's been spinning her wheels at NXT since last year's WrestleMania when she lost the title to Charlotte. And I think a change of scenery would do great for her, do great for the Raw Women's division as well. I think that needs a big invigoration, and I think Rhea can do that. Lots of great potential matchups with Rhea coming to town on the Red Show. Backstage, we see Bad Bunny and Damien Priest enter the building, and then Damien notices a poorly, if completely unhidden, R-Truth and a referee standing by. Truth tries to talk his way out of it, but he gets spooked by a priest, and so he flees. So Bad Bunny is still the champion for now. Elsewhere backstage, The Miz complained to Adam Pearce about what Bobby Lashley did earlier. Pearce is somewhat sympathetic to him, but he reminds him the clock is ticking. Our next match sees The New Day versus T-Bar and Mace of Retribution. Near the end, the Baddies hit a double choke slam onto Kofi and Mustafa Ali shouting at them to do it again, but it backfires, and Kofi single-handedly takes them out with Troubles in Paradise, 1 for each. I mean, and he pins to win. He wasn't booked that strong when he was WWE Champion. So after the match, though, Mustafa gets mad and chews out Retribution for failing again, screams at them a bit, and that's the end of the segment. I'm like, that's the end of the segment? Not Retribution all collectively just beating the hell out of him for just, yelling at them one too many times? I think that the group is so far beyond repair in its current incarnation. I think that you get some mileage out of the group of Retribution breaking off from Mustafa, beating him up and declaring themselves their own group or whatever, and doing their own thing, and Mustafa doing his own thing. Because right now, this current setup does not seem to be working unless there's some grand payoff to this that's going to make all this worth it. Well, it's the top of the hour, and time is up for The Miz. Lashley is dressed to wrestle, but The Miz is not. Still in his suit, and he says he needs more time. He wants another week to prepare for the championship match. Suddenly, Braun Strowman appears and says he's still miffed. He wasn't involved in the Elimination Chamber match on Sunday. Says he's more clarified than Bobby Lashley to challenge The Miz for the championship. Suddenly, Shane McMahon decides to appear like he often does sporadically lately, and he reminds Strowman that he's the Universal Champion, therefore didn't qualify for the Elimination Chamber match for the WWE title. Strowman says the idea sucked. He wants a match. If he can't have it with The Miz, he wants a match with Lashley. Shane then announces if Braun can beat Lashley in their match, then he is added to the title match next week, making it a triple threat. So the announcement is made. Braun turns his back on Lashley, who chop blocks him, firing the first shot before their main event match tonight. I thought it was an okay segment. I didn't expect the belt to change hands here or the match to even really happen at this point because it's not really The Miz's character. Having Strowman come back, I think, was kind of a welcome change up or kind of a little deviation for Lashley here. And we'll talk more about that match when we get to it, but I think this did a good job setting things up and kind of further building this feud between Lashley and Miz. We get a rarely seen tornado tag team match as Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin of the Hurt Business take on the Lucha House Party. Match starts out very brawly here, but it does pick up and get a bit more interesting and exciting as things go on. Lucha House Party appear to have won on more than one occasion, but the Hurt Business stop them, paid it to Lince Dorado for Shelton and Cedric to win. I thought, good win for the tag team champions. That's nice to see. The champions win a match every now and again, and it's good to see we went, a little bit of time without showing more, cracks forming in the foundation of the Hurt Business. Damian Priest alongside the 24/7 champion Bad Bunny taking on Angel Garza up next. At one point, Angel's got Damien in like a camel clutch, and Damien's making all the funny faces. He eventually powers out and stuff, and Garza keeps looking over at Bad Bunny. It distracts him to the point where Damien is able to capitalize, hits the Reckoning to win the match, and afterward, out come the 24/7 contenders. Damien's able to just huck them all out of the ring one by one, leaving Bad Bunny unscathed, and the 24/7 championship staying over his shoulder, which is good because we need some more stability in that division for a change. Randy Orton is backstage to address what happened last week when Alexa Bliss took over the Zoom call during the Gauntlet match. He says he's not used to dealing with failure as he has as of late, not just losing the Gauntlet match, but also losing fairly quickly in the Elimination Chamber match the night before. He wonders what's going on, what's holding him back, what's distracting him. It's not the Fiend like last time. This time it's Alexa Bliss. They showed the clip from last week when Alexa was on the pentagram and the candles blew out, and that visual seemed to set off something within Orton because he starts spewing up some viscous black goop and he has to run off. It's not unlike when Ultimate Warrior was cursed by Papa Shango many years ago. So, what was that? That has my interest has piqued a little bit. What does the goop represent? How and when will this, lead toward the Fiend's return? How much power does Alexa truly wield at this point? Color me interested for this one because, I'm definitely curious to see what the eventual payoff will be to this. Up next, the match that never dies, Charlotte Flair and Asuka taking on Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler in a non-title matchup here. Lacey Evans out of the picture being pregnant, so now Charlotte's kind of in this creative character limbo. Seems to have this air about her where she either doesn't care or she is distracted by what's going on around her. Charlotte takes, I think, the biggest bump in her career in this match when Nia just straight power bombs her at one point. Takes a lot of the heat in the match, does Charlotte. In the end, Flair accidentally kicks Asuka with a boot, and then that allows Nia to pin Asuka to win the match. Like, on the one hand, yay, the women's tag team champions win 2 matches in a row. You don't see that every day. But also, why at the expense of Asuka? I mean, for the storyline we get a little bit minutes later, I can kind of get that, but also it's like, can you just have like a Charlotte pair with somebody who's not the women's champion? Like, way to protect the women's champion is all I can say. So Asuka seems upset, and Charlotte's like, whatever, man. Our next match sees Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus. Not much to say about this one, honestly. I mean, it's a good match. I don't know what you want me to say about it. Sheamus ends up winning with the brogue kick, and that's that. He rebuilds some heat after losing in the chamber match on Sunday. But then the real thing that I want to talk about is backstage when Charlotte confronts her father, Rick, about all the distractions that have been happening lately, how she's working and busting her ass to try and help keep the family name legitimate. And Flair says, I just wanted to try. I saw potential in this woman. And Charlotte, with the line of the night, saying, you've seen a lot of potential in a lot of blondes. I'm just saying. Charlotte then tells him to not try and take her spotlight and be the nature boy during her time, and says, she's got to be Charlotte Flair, not Ric Flair's daughter. She needs to be her own woman, and tells him to go home. And, this was a really good scene. Probably one of the better, certainly one of the more emotionally charged ones of the night. You can kind of tell there's a bit of truth to what Charlotte is saying when the way they're delivering, the way they're speaking to each other. It felt very genuine. It felt like it came from a genuine place. And I can always appreciate that in my wrestling. And I think that this scene was actually very well done. So, where did they go from here? What, with Lacey Evans out of the picture now, who knows where that angle is going to go? And now that it's kind of like on hiatus, what's Ric Flair going to do? Like, is he going to try and keep needling Charlotte? Is he going to try and mentor somebody else? Even though it doesn't make any sense from a character perspective, would be interesting to see Flair start to mentor Rhea Ripley and maybe help her get her revenge from Charlotte the previous year. 1 minute and 37 seconds. That's how long this next match lasted as Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke take on Lana and Naomi. Lana gets beat up for a little bit. She tags at Naomi, double face plant to Mandy Rose, and That's all she wrote. Lana and Naomi win. What happened? Did some matches go way over their time and they had to cut some stuff from this one? I mean, what was the point? It felt kind of ridiculous. AJ Styles takes on Ricochet up next. Another okay match here. AJ and Ricochet do have a good chemistry, as we saw in their U.S. title feud a while back. And in this one here, it ends when AJ hits a big old knee to Ricochet and sends him crumbling. Then we get the Styles Clash for AJ to win. And then afterward, Omos comes in and does kind of one of those choke throws to Ricochet, holds him way up in the air and drops him down. We're seeing bit by bit a little bit more what Omos can do from a physical standpoint, not just tearing open the chamber pod on Sunday, but also doing some stuff, some actual moves in the ring. And AJ's looking, pretty strong here, even though he didn't win the chamber. He and Sheamus in particular, I think, look pretty strong after this week on Raw. Main event time, Braun Strowman versus Bobby Lashley, and if Strowman can win here, he will be added to the title match next week on Raw. The Miz, by the way, joining commentary here, and it's a big boy bash. I love these things. Lashley going to Braun's previously injured leg. Lashley kicks out of the running power slam, which is super rare, hits a spine buster, a very heavily assisted spine buster. Braun gets a lot of hops in that one, and then he eats a spear by Lashley for Lashley to win very decisively, and then he takes him out with a hurt lock afterward, just for good measure. The Miz wants to sneak attack Lashley, but it backfires and he gets the spear for his efforts as well. Lashley poses with the championship as we fade to black. Possibly the image we'll be seeing next week as well. And man, huge win for Lashley to look so strong and decisive against Braun Strowman, former Universal Champion and former, one of the top pushed guys in the company. Nothing to sneeze at here. And he just looks so strong here. Why don't we just pull an Impact and put all the belts on him? That's how I feel about Lashley right now. My grade for this week's Raw is a C-. I don't know. I feel kind of torn about this one, honestly, because there were some things I liked about the show, like the stuff with Miz and Bobby Lashley and MVP. I thought Riddle and Morrison was match of the night. I think Lashley looking as strong as he did in the main event was also great. And the scene with Charlotte and Ric Flair was very intriguing to watch. But I don't know why. I just felt like I was feeling every minute of these 3 hours, and I watched the show on time and a half. For whatever reason, this show just really dragged for me, except for a couple of moments. I just felt like it was kind of a lukewarm way to rebound after what we saw, this kind of earth-shattering thing we saw at the end of the pay-per-view the night before. And, besides that, though, I just felt like, I was waiting for more things to happen. And we saw stuff with Orton, for example, and with Lashley and Miz, but besides those two main things, I'm like, God, this show just felt like it dragged. But what did you think of Raw this week? Let me know in the comments section below. Stay tuned for this Wednesday's video, the Classic Review of the Week. It's my 100th Classic Pay-Per-View review. It's No Way Out 2001. I hope you enjoy it. But until then, I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.